5 times, Charles Oliveira was almost done. Charles Oliveira's fighting career didn't develop in a typical way. Nothing about it seemed to be inevitable. There was always a sense of skepticism about how far this guy could go, about when and not if the wheels would eventually come off, even as he got closer to getting a crack at the title and eventually won it. Greetings from our channel once more. In this video, we'll look at 5 periods in this man's career where it appeared like his career would take a turn for the worse, and he might fade into obscurity to celebrate his turnaround. Or even in the cage, when his skeptics suddenly felt as though they were long awaited. I told you so again was just around the corner. Charles Oliveira is being honored as he returns to the cage this weekend to take on what may be his toughest opponent to date. Let's begin. Submission specialist. The thought of Anthony Pettis moving down to featherweight was considered a ridiculous weight reduction to undertake by the time he lost his lightweight title and went on 3 vs Hellphil, Los Angeles Eddie Alvarez, and Edson Barboza. And as expected, his brief stay at 145 pounds did not allow him to regain the momentum that had propelled him to the title initially. Still in his divisional debut, he was given a challenger who appeared to be a reliable litmus test. Charles Oliveira was undoubtedly reaching true consistency at featherweight after having inconsistent results in the lightweight division. He had won 5 of his last 6 fights and only had lost to Max Holloway in a fight where he had an unusual injury early on. However, Pettis could weather Oliveira's early storm, finding out his submission attempts before finally catching his neck on a takedown, forcing the tap and marking the second time Charles Oliveira had been submitted in his career. But there are other reasons why this clash is discussed here. Ricardo Lamas, a seasoned competitor, was the opponent for Charles' rebound attempt. However, he chose to do more than deal with the effects of his eventual submission loss in round 2. Charles Oliveira's twos as a featherweight would also be made abundantly evident to us in just 10 matches throughout this battle. Oliveira has 4 weight loss failures. Even John Lineker would be impressed by such numbers. The margins in Anthony Johnson were becoming a little out of control. Before the 3rd miss, it took him around a pound to tip the scales 4.5 pounds over. However, Oliveira weighed in at 155 pounds before his battle with Lamas, a significant 9 pounds lighter. He was 27 years old, approaching his peak, and the year was 2016. However, as a submission specialist, suffering back-to-back defeats by submission was not a good look. And when you combine this with his weight problems, things started to seem gloomy. From guard. Most opponents view Charles Oliveira's guard as a true no-go area. One of the things that makes his upcoming battle with Islam Makhachev so intriguing is the question of whether or not this skilled, seasoned Pakistan-born wrestler will be able to defeat all of the submission and sweep attempts that will be made against him. Even if he does, will it be sufficient to keep him safe at all times? That is the draw, I guess, right there. Because of this, we consider this battle one of the era's biggest stylistic confrontations. However, I recall that in 2017, I continued to think of Charles as a fun, exciting, and utterly lethal finisher. Although Will Brooks didn't make it happen for himself at UFC, finishing him was still a significant victory given his history. With Paul Felder in front of him, Charles at least had a chance to start to find momentum in his more permanent home at 155 pounds. But despite being pushed to the limit, Felder could finish this bout in a way that perfectly encapsulated Oliver's career for the time being. Once more, most people continued to view Charles as a highly capable and deadly grappler. And in opening round, he searched for a leg, a choke, or anything else he could get a hold of. But Felder persisted, and after successfully fending many submission attempts, he eventually took the top position and barraged Oliveira with elbows from the Brazilian guard. It just seemed like another instance of Dubrun's playing up to his name, as I saw his renowned submission specialist finish in a situation when he should have had the advantage. Don't get me wrong, it was a great victory for Felder, but I, and I'm sure of many of you, had serious concerns about Charles Oliveira. The title shot. We've advanced in a time to a point where he's developed the kind of physique that most of us didn't think he could have. He had the kind of run where he consistently outperformed expectations. I particularly recall his confrontations with men I believed were planning to capitalize on Oliveira's reputation, such as David Tamer, Kevin Lee, and even Tony Ferguson. We were infinitely wise and knew who Charles Oliveira was. We knew him to be beatable and submittable to anyone who could push him beyond the point at which he would be able to fight. Although we were giving him credit for his obvious gains even after 8 victories in a row, Many of us were still waiting for the wheels to come off, especially considering how powerful lightweight was. Oliveira appeared at the height of his powers and looked more menacing than ever. However, the general public took time to overcome their preconceived conceptions of this man, and Michael Chandler was chosen as Oliveira's next opponent with the lightweight title on the line after he defeated Dan Hooker in his promotional debut via knockout. And in the first round, he took control of the momentum by heavily down Charles before almost submitting him with a guillotine. Those 8 victories before this fight were wonderful. Still, in retrospect, Oliveira began to show that he was a completely new fighter with a different mindset, where he likely would have withered previously. This Charles version returned, ratcheting the pressure on Michael Chandler and TK, beating him in the second round to become one of the sport's most improbable champions. The Diamond. But the story remained even after his comeback victory. The stage appeared perfect for the Diamond to emerge and dethrone the Brazilian interim champion, while also emerging as the division's main draw, with Dustin Poirier fresh off triumphs over the biggest celebrity in the sport, Conor McGregor. The early portions of this battle showed a degree of fury from Dustin that truly did signal that he was about to find the victory, even though people were now suspicious of Oliveira even as they selected Poirier. Once again, this was the expectation. He was hard-tagging Oliveira occasionally, even half-dropping him. Charles was very involved in the fight, but in that first round, he was forced to fight back more than once. However, in the second, after taking control of the situation on the ground for most of the 5 minutes, he recognized his path to victory. He was confident enough to charge right at Dustin at the start of the third and take his back with real purpose before finishing him off with a rare naked choke. For many fans, I believe, this was a significant turning point. Oliveira had now successfully defended his championship, and it was becoming quite evident that he would not give up even in the face of a certain defeat. The highlight. By the time Oliveira was preparing for his subsequent title defense against great Justin Gaethje, most people had come to terms with the fact that he was simply a different fighter from the erratic, inconsistent featherweight and lightweight division hopper who could never really find the consistency to be truly great. Gaethje was and continues to be a fighter who has built a career on taking down the tough, and then started putting a lot of pressure on Justin while using every weapon at his disposal to support Gaethje. Unexpectedly, Justin once more began to feel the strain. All of this occurred in the opening round, and after the fight, Gaethje acknowledged that every shot Charles delivered to him rang his bell. Before the 5 minutes were up, Charles' pressure eventually resulted in a perfectly straight shot that eliminated Gaethje from the match. Oliveira had him in position before he knew it, going for the triangle first before taking the back and pulling off the most remarkable comeback of his career to that point. That is all for this video. We will be back soon with another informative video. Don't forget to like and share the video. Until next time.